Good afternoon. Thank you for watching DALLÄSTHETIC. This is episode 16, and I'm here with James Talambas. Good to see you, James.
Hey.
Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we're going to cover a lot today. Let's, I guess, start off by tell me, what's your background?
Well, I started as a musician, worked my way into, I was in a few bands, and have always kind of played music by myself or, for myself. And then started a studio, started working in production, producing records, arranging and stuff for different artists. And then, down the line, started moving some of my work into more sculptural structures. So, so things worked out from there.
So how is working in music and working in things that can be seen, how do you prioritize, or how does one kind of marry the other?
I actually kind of feel like I've always thought this way. I feel like that the kind of ideas that I've had about sound or about music have always been in a way moving towards this. So I've always had an understanding of space, had a kind of a visual view of sound and the way that it bounced around the room, or the way that it felt, or when it hit me, or how it mixed with other sounds. And so I just sort of, over the years, started to become more honest with myself and felt that I would try this or try that. And as I would do that, in a band context, it didn't really work. Sometimes I think my bandmates could attest to that it was a bit much to have you, doing some sort of sound experiment while there's pop music happening.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But to do it in an art context, I think it enables people to engage with the work a little bit more. So
you found that kind of venturing into a visual aspect was less constraining.
Yeah, it was. I felt that the things that I wanted to say, or the questions that I had, that I wanted to, and the subjects that I wanted to talk about were easier to do in a gallery context, or that kind of performance context.
Well, we've got a clip from last year that we'll play of one of your projects that's largely a musical piece. Well, it's both. We'll let everyone see that.
Okay.
And I believe this one is from, I believe it's from Aurora. No, it's from Saluna last year.
From, is this Between the Now?
Yeah.
Array. Yeah, it's from Saluna Array. Cool.
So what was it like working with the Dallas Street Choir?
Oh, they were great. They're amazing people. I got to come by a couple times and watch. They rehearse once a week downtown, and they come in for practice and a meal ticket, and really raise each other's spirits. I got to go in there and see a couple practices, and then got to pick about 15 of them to work with, and I recorded them individually, as you saw in the video. And they, they're just, it was really a blast to work with them. So much enthusiasm. Some people wanted to sing multiple parts, and they just wanted to sing, and it was really nice to have their voice there at Array, in which I felt like, they were, a couple blocks from where this was all happening, just, and I felt like it was their voices needed to be heard in that place, and what I was trying to talk about in that piece, they were directly affected by. So I like.
What was the subject of the piece?
It was kind of about how we are as individuals and as collectively as a society, that we are so able to, with our technology, with our affluence, and everything, that we are able to, when we could, provide a utopia for everyone. We could, but we don't.
Right.
And that this is you, this is me. Every day we wake up, we don't provide a utopia. As much as we're doing our own thing in our own lives, the one thing we're not doing as well we could is providing utopia. And so one of the, and when you're homeless, you're on the direct receiving end of that responsibility.
And so can art bring us closer to that utopian world, or just kind of, what does it do for us?
Well, I think that I guess what I try to do is as an artist, or as a composer or whatever, having that platform, I needed to say what I needed to say, and I had to bring it, have an emotional conversation with somebody about it. So I think that's the place that art has in that, is to say, there's humanity here that's not being accounted for, and so and we need to account for that humanity, because we share the same emotions that they do.
So what do you call this type of art? Sometimes I hear it referred to as social justice work or social justice art. Sometimes I hear it as social sculpture, different things. Do you have a name for it, or?
I'm apprehensive about
Putting it in
that in that context. Because I'm not trying to, there's a time and a place to preach at people.
Yeah.
And that's from a pulpit.
Yeah.
That's where you preach, but you do art, in an art context. And so I don't think that what I'm doing is social practice art.
Okay.
I think I'm trying to deal with kind of a deeper understanding of a situation, or of a there may be something happening politically, but the part of the issue, I think, that will stick with people is not giving them the facts and giving them, there's plenty of places you can get facts, and there's plenty of places you can get numbers and statistics, and if you have a conversation with me at one of these openings, then we, can talk about all of those things, but within the art itself, I think it's important to reach into a deeper human point, and that's what art can do. So I think that's, if you're not doing that, you're not making art.
Right. So you're communicating your perception of a situation or of what you're encountering, and allowing people to kind of form their own opinions or to connect, right?
Yeah, to connect, really. I mean, it's really more about connection and finding a way, especially like Between the Now. It was about finding the most human part of the situation of homelessness or dystopia or the great divide of affluence that we have in the country. So how do you bring that to a human place? And I think that's through the voice. I think that's through this choir. I think it's through some very human elements. So
Humanity is something that you tend to deal with, like, probably more than a lot of other artists I've seen. Or it's an overwhelming theme in your work, in emotion, humanity, kind of the self. So what draws you to, or what enables you to express those types of things?
I guess it has to do with that. I have trouble connecting with people in general, and so it's very personal to me to try and provide a space that helps to connect people, or helps to have people realize their humanity. I don't know. It's just something that gets into my head a lot, and gets in, I've never really expressed my emotions really well, except through some sort of art. All of a sudden I can speak volumes when it comes to creating a piece of music or whatever, however you want to look at it. But I'm not so good at the verbal, or stuff like that. So I guess that's where it kind of comes to me. It's like an obsession of that, of
and you're doing what you can through the work that you make.
Yeah.
Some of the work that you've created and that you're working on certainly does kind of assist with like a global good, and can help people. Recently, you presented your proposal for a project for the CAD Fund, and you won. And it was a pretty extraordinary experience just sitting in the audience there for that. We were handed a pot of lavender and instructed to smell it and feel it and pass it along to the person next to us. And well, tell us about that project.
So I was diagnosed when I was a kid with severe depression, with psychosis and high anxiety. And so it's something that I've dealt with all my life, and it's something that's a daily, kind of active conversation, if you will, to say it lightly. And so, I mean, I have a number of friends who battle with that as well. And so when I started, working on having a very active lifestyle of how to deal with this, a lot of what came to me was lavender and some other things that really help with my depression a lot. So I started thinking about how to utilize that in a more immersive context, right? So I've been doing immersive kind of environments, and so I was like, it'd be really great if I had a place to sit, and that had lavender plants all over it, and had used sound to soothe as well, and just had a place and just a moment, and started to think about how people could share that as well, in a public sphere, and if there's anything like that could be just out in a place that would not normally be calming or not normally be healthy, a healthy moment in which you could, take a breath. And there isn't really. And so I started thinking about that, and so I started to create Breathe.
And with Breathe, so it's an environment with, multisensory stimuli,
Mm-hmm.
and then you even have there's text, I believe, as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I wanted to kind of enable people to be able to tell their stories of what they're doing with their mental health, their depression or their anxiety, etc. So the walls are going to be clear, and there'll be markers out there to where people can write on the walls around the structure, and tell their own stories, and I'll have my own stories and friends' stories that can be able to people can read those and add their own, and maybe connect, and know that they're not alone.
That's tremendous, just knowing you're not alone.
Yeah, it really is. The response that I've gotten so far, even after that, of people just saying, this helped me, even just this much, just hearing, that somebody else suffers with this or goes through this or tries, each day to overcome it, has been immense. And
you're hoping these installations would be in very public areas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think too often that our art, especially art that can really, have a direct impact in the public, doesn't get seen by a lot of people. Doesn't get seen by the people who need it most, right? The people who are working 60 hours a week and still not making rent here in Dallas. Those people don't have time to go to an art gallery. They would barely have time to stop on the sidewalk, to even, see this pass by. Those are the type of people that I would like to be able to engage with this piece, is those people, even just one.
Yeah.
Even one commuter will make it all worthwhile.
So this was an instance where you kind of dug into yourself and into experience to create a work. In another instance, there was a project about domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that.
There's a piece called "You Cannot Bury My Silence," and I finished it earlier this year, in January. It's about about being in an abusive relationship and the mental health effects of that. And so for this particular piece, as you can see there, I'm a very private person, actually.
Yeah.
And so I don't talk a lot about what goes on, in my life on the regular. But I needed to get this story out. So I told my own story of a relationship that I was in. I made a voicemail. I called myself. I wrote all my story out, and I called myself and left voicemail messages. And then I took that and took all the tones out of it, and then buried it into this in these speakers. So I put the sound of my voice and my story, and I buried it myself. And there was something very empowering, very helpful about just writing the whole thing out, and then calling somebody myself on Google Voice. But I called somebody and I left a message saying, "Hey, this is my story." And I encouraged others to do the same in a prompt that I had that kind of talked about some mantras that I had said to myself to get me through that. And so and burying it myself, when in that moment, in that time, I felt very buried, and felt very diminished and very just like there was 700 pounds of rocks on top of me, and it was heavy, and it was the response that I got when on the opening. There wasn't a lot said.
Right.
It was interesting. I really felt like, allowing myself to be that forward and vulnerable. It was amazing, because people would just come up to me and we'd just stand there with each other, and that was it. Like I was, and so that really was encouraging for me to continue that work. Like that. So
really generous, to allow people to tap into that, and think of silence as not necessarily something that's suppressing, but something that you have power over as well. Often your work can be about connection as well. One that I really enjoyed recently at 500X was about your connection with your plant.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that one was a love letter to my plant. I don't know if we have
I don't have an image of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You can describe it.
Okay. It's well, so me and my plants, we're best of friends, and they help me through some hard times. We see each other every day, and so I wrote kind of a love letter to my plant. It's called Only You, in which I made the plant my mother-in-law's tongue plant. It's very spiky, and I put electrodes onto it and made a program that can then take that information into some music and trigger different samples around an octaphonic speaker system. So you have this kind of immersive installation where you were inside the feelings of the plant, if you will. However the plant was feeling, then you were hearing that in all around you. And I had a projection of the sun right in front of it, so that it could be happy as well. So
that was something that really struck me. That you brought this plant to the art gallery, and it might shy away, typically, but you brought it its favorite thing, the sun. And
the sun, yeah.
The music was soothing, and one thing that I couldn't believe was that when someone visiting interacted with the plant, the tones changed, and it seemed to, and I feel weird saying this, but it seemed to enjoy company.
It does. It's a very social plant, and it was hard being away from it, actually, for the time that it was in the gallery. But yeah, it does change when people are around it and in it, and its electricity changes as it gets interacted with, and as it interacts with people in the space as well. So I also used at certain points, if it feels a certain way in there, it would play a kind of modified sample of the Platter, "Only You" by the Platters.
I remember that.
Yeah, so that was, you know, yeah.
It was very sweet. Another installation that you did, we've got an image of, involved several monitors with the faces. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, that was, that's a piece called "All I Can Do to Hope from Drowning." That was a 4-channel video with 16-channel surround audio. And so I created a piece that I wanted to go into what the anxiety and the emotion of you know, it was part of the "You Cannot Bury My Silence" kind of solo show that I had at 500X at the beginning of the year, and it was dealing with more the emotional part of it, right? So you had more of the catharsis and the empowerment through "You Cannot Bury My Silence," the piece with the rocks, and then also in that same floor you had this piece that dealt more with the anxiety and the I guess kind of fire, the almost you know, irritation with the, you know, stuff with anxiety. And so what I would do is I for that piece I took a lot of my originally started with just writing down I have a lot of depressive thoughts or anxious thoughts, and I would write them all out just as they were happening, as I would hear them. You know, "You're not good enough," or, you know, "She doesn't like you," or any of those kind of things. And any obsessive thoughts that I had, I have a lot of obsessive thoughts about sound and about space and architecture or whatever, you know, and I would rattle these off and I'd write them out and get them out of my head. And then I recorded myself doing a voiceover of those things, and sent those files. Probably had about 30 minutes worth of, you know, 4 different tracks of stuff. And I sent that to a friend of mine, Timothy Elliott, who is an animator, and he did an animation of kind of my inner me. And so it's kind of an androgynous, how I feel on the inside, right? And he was really great to work with. So he made this character, and then matched my voiceover to that character and animated it. Sent it back to me, and I made a video of just things that I had been watching, or, you know, I pick up on lights a lot, or I pick up on colors or something, and I just put those into a video and created a score over that, and that's what that piece was. So,
was it weird seeing the animated version of yourself?
It was. When I first got back the animations of the characters speaking back at me, it was really interesting and actually really helpful. I think to do that and then to have those words spoke back to me was really, really helpful. And so, you know, those thoughts don't really happen with me too much, and they really decreased the amount of those kind of thoughts.
Does music help you through a lot of the emotions?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I've never seen. Okay, so I visited your studio a couple months ago. I've never seen so many instruments in my entire life.
Yeah.
Have you done a count or anything?
No, I stopped counting. I had to stop counting.
It's hundreds.
Yeah, at least, yeah. I really like odd sounds, and so when I hear a sound that I don't have, then I go find that sound, and I want that sound.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I go find it, and I get it.
So you're collecting sounds.
Yeah, and whether it's through an instrument or whether it's through found sound, field recordings, or all kinds of stuff, or, you know, gigabytes on my hard drive, terabytes on my hard drive, then I collect sounds.
And you've played all the instruments?
Yeah, I'm not very good at the guitar.
Really?
Yeah, I'm terrible
all
at the
the
guitar.
things.
Yeah. but you know, I have a couple guitars, but I don't play them right or well. So yeah.
The coordination, or
yeah, I think the strings are just too small. I don't know.
could be.
Yeah.
You had a lot of these kind of one-man band type instruments, or I don't know if I'm describing it right, but things that would do two things. An instrument that might do two things at once, like part accordion, part something else. Or
Oh yeah, or part two different. I have a thing called a dilruba, which is part sitar and part something else that I forget.
Oh, I love the sitar.
Yeah, so that's one of my favorite instruments, the dilruba. Yeah.
Wow, so cool, so cool. I think we've got one more. Actually, I do have something else, but you've done the music for our clips and whatnot here for the podcast. And
yeah, it's a joy. It's awesome.
it's a joy for me too, because we've at the end, our kind of like outro will be the different some of the different tunes
Cool.
that I've accompanied some of the video with, and I'm learning how to do some of this video stuff. And I'll tell you, it's been really interesting being able to play with the songs and kind of set an artist to music, more or less.
Right,
and
right.
you armed me with a pretty amazing array of moods and
Cool.
tempos, and really something. I believe we've got one more piece from I think it's from Aurora last year.
Aurora,
yeah, here
like
it is.
from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So this is playing. And then we'll do the outro. It's a huge file, so I think it's a little laggy from what I'm hearing. Well, for those that are interested in learning more about new media, which, by the way, a lot of this was new media, when you're incorporating video and sound, and that kind of goes under this whole purview of new media that we're hearing a lot about, this new thing. Anyway, on the 27th, that's next week, you'll be part of a panel at Cedars Union talking about new media art. I believe Julie Lieberstadt will be joining.
Oh yeah, she's great. Yeah.
I think Carmen Menza is another that'll be there
Good
as
deal.
well.
Good deal.
And so that's on the 27th from 6 to 8. And I'll certainly be there and looking forward to that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it's the CU. Shout out Cedars Union down there. It's a great spot for everything that is happening in the city. So
really excited to have that in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Without question. So thanks for joining. It was a really interesting conversation. I hope that people watching can relate and have maybe caught on to some clues on things that they might try in their own practice or in their own lives.
Totally.
Is a lot of this available on your website?
Yeah, newmediarecordings.com is there, and then I'm also on Instagram as James Talambas.
Awesome.
So.
Well, let's listen to some of the great music that I've accompanied my videos with over the last few months.
Cool.
Thanks, James.
Thanks.